Good morning, my friends, and welcome to today's training, another episode of the Blunt Cake series. Today, we're going to be talking about a very specific way in which we sabotage our healing by playing into a specific fantasy that codependency has us living in. This is where the trauma bond, the euphoric addiction or love addiction we have gets us and sabotages our healing. So if you're new to me, I'm Marshall Burtcher, and I help codependents rediscover their well-being and happiness by healing the trauma bond, by helping them come to know, love, and live who they are, and by helping them create happy, sustainable relationships in their lives. So before we get into today's topic, I need to share this out with the community. The community is your safe haven here on the internet, where you can find guidance, support, and tools that assist you in breaking free of your codependent habits and rediscovering you and who you are and your value so that you can thrive in your life. So I'm going to share that out now. The link is above on Facebook. It's below on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to search for the group, it's the Thriving Beyond Codependency community group. Okay, so let me know you're here in the comments. Let me know how you're doing. And let's jump into today's topic, which is you sabotage your healing by believing this one fantasy. So in codependency, we have fantasies. In fact, largely most of codependency is driven by fantasy, and that fantasy is created as a survival mechanism, as a way to cope with the distress and despair that we experience when we're going through what I call the EDD cycle, the euphoria, distress, despair cycle, which is created by another cycle called the SAD cycle, or seduction, abuse, and discard cycle. The fantasy is what gives us hope. It's what keeps us motivated. It keeps us focused. It's also what keeps us stuck in those situations and perpetuates both of those cycles. Now, the fantasy shows up in a lot of different forms in a lot of different ways, but there is one particular fantasy that haunts us while we're actually doing our healing work, and this is ultimately sabotaging your healing, and it's putting you at risk of a relapse and being more entangled with a toxic relationship or a harmful individual. And this fantasy is not something we usually catch. It's something we think is normal, and it's in fact partly fueled by the idea that healing allows us to have relationships with people who are harmful or toxic to us. And that is false. Healing has nothing to do with that. So the fantasy fundamentally says this: if I heal enough, maybe I can have a relationship with this toxic person again. That's a fantasy because it ignores the impact of toxic behaviors on you. See, you're not going through the deep, hard, difficult work of healing in order to get back into a toxic mess. You're not building resilience or tolerance for them. Real healing is really about coming to respect, love, and treat yourself with value, importance, and priority. That's the key here. Real healing moves us away from these toxic situations and these people with these toxic behaviors and patterns. It doesn't move us towards them, and it doesn't teach us to develop tolerance or capacity for these individuals. It teaches us to leave, and we leave because we respect ourselves first. Real healing moves us from a secondary position in consideration of people to the first position. We consider what we feel, what we want, what we need, and how they're impacting our world, and whether or not those things line up or not. It's really important, because if that's not where healing is leading you, then you're likely still running in a fantasy somewhere, and you're trying to get better so that you can go back, which means you're not actually addressing the deeper pain that's going on, and you're not acknowledging the actual reality of what you've lived through and treating it with acknowledgement, with legitimization, so that it can integrate and inform you about what matters to you. A lot of times shame and guilt and a sense of obligation or commitment to the toxic relationship or to the person with the toxic patterns of behavior is what's really motivating the fantasy in the background. And behind that is this secret desire of getting another euphoric experience with them, because we're hooked on the chemical experience that we go through while interacting with someone who is chaotic, unstable, and unreliable that way. We have no commitment and no obligation to anyone that's harmed us. In fact, fundamentally, respect dictates that, hey, this person harmed me, and I went through serious distress and I had to work through a lot of things. I'm going to stay away from them because I'm not going to harm myself. I care about my well-being more than I care about their approval. Now, sometimes we get hooked on this too. We get hooked on this in a way of our brain going, well, we hurt them. We need to apologize and own that with them. We need to make amends. Well, we have to sit down and look at the context there and realize 99% of the time we didn't hurt them. They earned a consequence because of their terrible and toxic behavior. Leaving someone, moving on, cutting them off is something they've earned because of the way they behaved. And we come into this point of view when we start to respect ourselves first. We start to treat the emotions we experience, the experience we had ourselves, the cost that it brought into our lives. We start to treat these things with value, importance, and priority. We start to realize that I'm not the bad guy here. They earned that outcome because they behaved a certain way. I am not obligated to make them feel better about their choices. In fact, they're a grown-ass adult. They can figure it out themselves. So this gets us out of an enmeshment point of view. It gets us out of feeling like we have to caretake them or in some way parent them. These are grown-ass adults. They can do it themselves. They can grow up or not, whatever they choose to do. That's out of my yard. It's not my concern. My concern is my well-being, respecting myself, caring for myself. This is how we break out of this fantasy that says, man, once I heal, I can have a relationship with this toxic person. Well, real healing is going to be like, I don't want that because of what it brings into my world. It harms me. See, real healing doesn't prepare us to become tolerant of toxic behavior. Real healing teaches us to move on and away from it and move on into a life where we're surrounded with people who love, see, and value us for who we are. That's real healing. So, do you see this fantasy in your life and in your healing? You may not see it right now. You might see it down the road. Keep vigilant with it because it's a serious and it's one of those sly fantasies that gets us in the background, that gets us when we don't expect it. It's certainly gotten me. And part of our growth and maturity out of codependency is self-parenting ourselves. It's to say, like, this person harmed me, so no, we're not going there. So in the little aspect of myself, the inner aspect of myself that says, I want to go back, I'm like, and what kind of consequence is that going to bring to our world? What did we experience last time? What is the consistent pattern of impact that we experience? And then if I'm honest with myself, it's hell. And that doesn't align with my well-being or my happiness, so I'm not going to continue to play here. That's self-respect. That's self-parenting. See, real healing moves us to make the hard decisions. There's a TV series I follow called Battlestar Galactica. It's one of the best sci-fi series out there. And Admiral Adama, who is one of the primary characters, he has a saying. He says, sometimes you have to roll the hard six. This is rolling the hard six. It means we have to make the hard choice and live with the hard consequence because ultimately it benefits our well-being and our happiness. And this is one of those. It's just like, nope, that person brought harm into my world. I lost myself with them. I wasn't able to keep myself or respect myself. I'm not going back. I've worked too hard to get to where I'm at. I respect myself. I love myself. And by respecting and loving myself, I'm going to say no to this. See, self-love and self-respect aren't about pampering yourself. They're not like getting all the fun feelings. They're about making choices that foster our long-term and our long-term well-being and happiness. It's about fostering what generates a safe, nurturing experience and environment for us, and interacting with people who are toxic in their behaviors and in their thinking, who don't respect us, who don't show empathy, compassion, or concern for our emotions, that have no regard for our boundaries, who are unwilling to take accountability and grow and change their behaviors to become safer and more available, are not people that, in my book, deserve to be at least in my life. Because it is a privilege to be in my life. Because relationship is built on privilege and consent. It's not built on entitlement or obligation. And when I treat myself with that fundamental respect and with that loyalty to my well-being and honesty to what's going on, especially about the impact and what I pay, the cost that I pay to be in a relationship with someone, I'm going to take this very seriously, because I come first in it. You come first in your relationships. And when you start treating yourself with that first priority, you're going to see very quickly why we don't go back to people who have harmed us, especially if they've never demonstrated empathy or a change in behavior. But generally, even if they have, you'll find that your nervous system, your body's like, nope, they're a threat to me, regardless of how much they've changed. So you don't have to go back. Respect your well-being. Respect your healing. Respect all this work that you're doing, this energy that you're investing with inside yourself. Because that's going to make a huge leapfrog, both in your healing, in your autonomy, your self-love, and it's going to direct you in paths where you find healthy relationships and friendships, where life becomes a lot safer for you to live in and to enjoy. Because that's what you deserve. See, fundamentally, we deserve to be known, loved, and valued for who we are. But our responsibility in this is to know, love, and value ourselves first, and then to filter people in and out of our lives based on how they do that. Because some people, regardless of how we feel about them, don't deserve to be in our lives because of how they treat us. So people are earning these boundaries, and they're earning the privilege of being within our lives so that we can take care of ourselves. Because when I have relationships and friendships that value and respect me, fundamentally, my life is safer. My life grows. My life expands. I succeed more. I'm happier, more at rest, and more at peace. And I value that. So I don't bring people into my world, especially people in the past that have harmed me. They don't get to be in my world. They lost that privilege. They wanted that, they should have behaved in a more mature way and should have worked out their shit and behaved in a better way. So, my friends, watch out for this fantasy that can be lurking in the background in your healing work. We don't heal so we can become tolerant of toxic and abusive behaviors from people. We heal so that we can create happy, healthy relationships, friendships, and a life that we enjoy. That's really what it's about. We come back to respecting and valuing ourselves. So that concludes today's Blunt Cake episode. Just as an announcement, the recorded version of the Heal Yourself strategy is now open for enrollment. You can enroll today if you want. The link is above on Facebook, below on YouTube. This particular version of the course comes with the trainings. They're dripped out over a period of time. Drip means that each section is released at a certain interval. So you won't have access to the entire course at first. Usually it's one section at a time. So section 1, then 35 days later, section 2, etc., etc. So you get the recorded versions of the classes. You also get live access to the bi-weekly or twice a week live group support called Live Mentoring Hours, which starts on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Mountain Daylight Savings Time and Thursdays at 11 a.m. Mountain Daylight Savings Time. So you get live support that way. You get live support via email and through the community here on Facebook. So you can enroll in that. That course is the foundational course of my work. It's where I teach you how to restore your safety, sanity, and self. It is how we resolve our codependency, the trauma bond, and love addiction. So currently, there's 22 modules in that course. So you got a long, deep, in-depth, empowering set of trainings there for you to help you restore your safety, sanity, and self. So thank you guys again for showing up. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. And you can enroll in the course in the link above, on Facebook, below on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And I will see you guys in our next training. Have a good day. Bye-bye.